Dr. Rotich and Abdullahi Ahmed, and we're just having a tete-a-tete, you know, to understand what's happening here. Gentlemen, good morning. Good to see you. Starting with Dr. Rotich. It's been a while.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Mr. Oloo. I think you tell us, while we were away, what were you doing?
What happened?
What really happened?
He says that this is not like a restaurant. You just walk in. You must be invited. Yeah. That's why he disappeared.
I was not invited, but I thought this is not a motel.
So you don't have to be a gate crusher.
We have to be here.
We understand. Gentlemen, thank you so much for bracing that particular call in the morning. And we are just about to start our conversation. We need to understand what has been happening in the country, not in the last 24 hours, but the past 1 week, politically speaking. Perhaps, you know, there are so many things that you as a citizen, you might not be so keen on picking them. So from the best heads, from the, you know, keen eyes, they see them from a different angle that perhaps you or I might not see them from. And then now we want to, I would like to engage them further so that we might understand what is affecting you politically, economically, and even matters to do with security. We are in election period. It's all gloves are off right now as we speak. So politicians will be crisscrossing this country, of which they have been doing. And come next year, it will be thorough. That's what you say. We all know how politics in Kenya and campaigns usually get when it comes to an election period. It's always thorough, and politicians will be running up and down. We have seen Deputy President William Ruto making inroads, you know, each and every day, you know, flying from one particular region to another. His main challenger, that is Raila Odinga, also traversing the country, all in the name of votes. But then now, one thing we expect is President Kenyatta is expected to have State of the Nation address tomorrow. It will be a joint parliamentary sitting, that's both Senate and the National Assembly, as required by law. And we just need to understand what are some of the expectations, the hit and misses during his tenure since the last State of the Nation address. What are some of the things that probably he will be addressing, okay? The COVID-19 situation was here with us for quite a long time. Many people suffered business-wise. School calendar was completely altered. That some people do not even have tab of how the cycle is right now, because we're used to January to April, then to August, and then December holidays. But then now, everything completely changed. Interesting times that we're living in. So I'll be having that discussion shortly with our guests. And you can also reach us on social media, at Victor Low, at Jen Wamboy, at Dorina Range, at Regina Menyara. Let's just have a conversation. Or you'd rather go on our website, that is www.kbc.channel1.co.ke, or you can also reach us on our social media platforms. Let's have a conversation. What are your expectations? Okay, ready to go now? Sawa. Okay, so starting with you, Daktari, perhaps to start with you. First of all, before we started the show, we talked about gender-based violence, and we heard about 16 days of activism. And I'm tempted to ask you this as gentlemen, because when we talk about gender-based violence, this is just an hour starter, because it's always about women. For example, that story we had about that lady who killed the husband because of violence, and the judge jailed her for 24 hours. And because of that, 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What do you make of that? Starting with you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
First of all, as long as human beings are together, there will be always feuds.
Yeah.
People will be fighting. But I think the most important thing is, how do you handle some of these things? Too much stress sometimes contribute to either whether the economical hurdles in the family or the external pressure from other people. So there's so many other angles to it. It's not just the man and the woman. But by and large, the most important thing is how do you handle the communication part? Especially, it's very difficult to talk when you're angry. So it's good to walk out or take a break, or first of all talk about that we should not be violent to each other. Because if you react when you're angry, then there's chances that high likely you're going to do some mistakes.
Yeah.
But I had the discussion when I was in the studio that the man did this, but we don't know what happened to the man. Maybe he had more marks than her. Now that he's dead, the dead don't speak. So just because he left maybe 2 other women, I mean, before people get married, how many boyfriends or girlfriends do they have from high school? People have a lot of other people in their lives. They come and go. and then there are those you agree to live together. So it's not it's not a situation where you judge the man or you judge the woman.
Yeah,
you look at the circumstances that lead. Remember, Kenya is going through economical hurdles. These are some of the factors that contribute to a lot of stress in the family, because currently food prices are very expensive. Then the person has no, you know, the income is very mega. I mean, they're doing, you know, this and that. Kenyans are, you know, majority are very poor. So what is important is always to make sure that we handle these issues very delicately. We call friends to arbiter amongst ourselves, or parents, or psychologists. So involvement of other people who are very close, who knows the dynamic of the family, is also very important.
It's very important, yeah.
But the idea of saying that one person might be the victim of the other is not. No. Sometimes women abuse men. Yeah. Sometimes.
Actually, yeah. And that's that now brings me to you, Daktari, because even men suffer, you know, the emotional violence, you know, the psychological violence, even physical violence. But violence is violence, nonetheless.
I think, although going by our family setup,
yes,
there are a lot of breakdowns which have been occasioned by the kind of the economic pressure, the social pressure, and maybe to minor extent is actually political pressure.
Yeah,
you see, after you can remember, although during the closure of the schools, it was reported that a lot of gender, not actually gender, but family violence were actually reported during that span of time when the children were at home, when they were in their own holiday. And one would ask himself as to what really transpired, because the children were sent back to their parents. And then why all this gender violence? I think there are a lot of things that we must consider when we are looking at the violence that we are actually experiencing in our families. Talk about the economic factors, which has been occasioned by the pandemic for over a year now. And a lot of people lost their jobs. And losing jobs, that means they're losing also the source of their bread. I mean, they're losing the source of most of the things that they're supposed to have. Maybe a family used to enjoy some particular food, and now they don't get that food. And even meeting the most basic things has actually been a big problem in most of the families. The budget is no longer there because the money is not there. So going by that, Oloo, I think the family breakdown also is actually the main problem, because when a problem is shared, it is halfway solved.
Yes.
So you find most of the families, they confine their problems. The problems are sorted between the wife and the husband. And in the process, you find that the family, since they are not opening up, they suffer a lot. And maybe the psychiatrists or the professionals at the moment are actually needed to help families, especially those who have studied the psychology, the upbringing of the children, the talking to the family, and also encouraging families to share up their problems. And once they share up, they are actually solving their problems. halfway. And Kenya is facing what the other parts of the world are actually facing. If it is economic, if it is social, global, so it is wide. It's a global problem. I was looking at this case as this case of the very bad incident that happened where the wife actually killed the husband as a result of defending herself. It was the most unfortunate thing, because death is not a solution. If you have been offended or rather pushed to the world, there is arbitrating bodies. You take somebody to the
but perhaps the lady tried. The lady tried.
And it is because of that history that we are having now that the man had actually chased about two earlier women. Now this one was that. Maybe because of that kind of mind, this woman was trying at most to defend herself. But unfortunately, that man was not supposed to die, because you need to have time. You need to be given time to defend yourself. And who can tell, since they were two, who can tell whether the man was going to kill the wife? Who can explain? It is through the wife that she's now trying to say, you see, I was trying to do this, I was trying to do this. But who can bear witness and say that was the whole thing? So in this case, it is people may have actually read that guy in a very negative way, and yet to he had to be given a chance to leave so that he could explain his part of the story.
Okay, I think based on what you said, what I can say is that violence is violence, and you know, whichever way, it should not be the way out. Young kids, you know, they copy not from what we say, but for what we do. If you they see mom and dad fighting each and every evening before going to bed, that's that's what they will carry even to their adulthood, and you start wondering, kwani familia yangu, what happened to, you know, I took them to school, but everything just that. So
it's the worst thing to happen.
Yeah, so I just had to bring you to that gentleman because it's 16 days of activism and gender-based violence, it cuts across, and I just had to involve you, and yeah, you know, having from a man's point of view, because they also have families, and they, you know, some of these things are important to be talked about because it's a national concern. Okay, so let's get to the story of the day. Politically speaking, if you thought they could not even talk about they're also able to be good councillors. Yeah, Dr. Rotich.
Yes.
A good one. All right. Okay, so gentlemen, we are expecting the State of the Nation address tomorrow by the President. We expect him to have that discussion in Parliament, that address in Parliament tomorrow at 2:30. Perhaps this is, unless stated otherwise, should be his last State of the Nation address, and we expect a lot from the President, having in mind that so much happened during this particular period from the last bit. We are going to talk about that one briefly, but politically, things are changing slowly. It's not the way things were around 6 months ago. Things are changing.
That's changed, Akel.
Things are changing, and politics is actually mutating into something that nobody thought it was going to be. Starting with you here, Ahmed, what have you learned? Give it a period of 6 months up to where we are right now.
Well, I think first of all, the politics of Kenya is changing because also our constitution has changed a lot of other things. But what is important is 3-4 months ago, we will not be hearing Oka having some divisions. But we stated that the race might ultimately end up at the doors of Ruto and Raila. Because you can be an alliance, there's so many other factors you consider in men's decision making. We said that you need the state, you need the tribe, and you need the money. But what you need more than all that is the decision to stand firm as a man. That you cannot buy with the money, the tribe cannot give you, the state cannot give you. So how firm? Oka, if you look at the 3 or 4 members, Musalia Mudavadi, Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Wetangula, can anyone say with certain that they will take a bold decision, share the seats or the positions, and go alone? Because do they have the state? Do they have the money? Another thing is most of them, like Gideon Moi and Musalia Mudavadi, are sons of a president and a minister. So despite the name, what have they cut a niche for themselves politically? Kenyan politics requires people who are very rough in the sense that you need to campaign, you need to have some stamina. You fly from here, go there, sleep here, talk to people. That is 1. 2, how many other people with your resources can you marshal? So now that we said 3-4 months ago that Oka is going to be divided between Ruto camp and Raila camp.
And that's exactly what you're saying.
That is what's going even to happen. The question is, Gideon Moi might join Raila and Uhuru. Kalonzo Musyoka has already invited Raila Odinga to the DNC, Wiper DNC. Where will Musalia Mudavadi and the senator go? So that's a question. Now that they have divided, now, because the projection was if the 3 of them, the Ruto race, the Raila race, and the Oka race, we might be looking at a rerun. Now that they are going to be divided with the hurdles of the economy, with Kenyans angry, will there be a vote of protest either against Ruto or against Raila? We don't know that. But it is becoming apparent that Oka, in the next 2-3 months, it's going to be consumed by either Raila camp or Ruto camp. They will be swallowed, not even consumed, they will be swallowed.
They'll be swallowed.
They will be swallowed. Because remember, the structures of the countries, apart from the president and the deputy president, we have the attorney general, we have the speaker of parliament, we have the speaker of the senate, we have the finance, very lucrative positions in the country. It doesn't have to be presidential only. So these are the positions some people will be jostling to have them. The question is, if Ruto camp promises Musalia Mudavadi to either be the speaker of the National Assembly or the speaker of the Senate, will he accept, or will ANC accept to bring someone else? It doesn't have to
nothing less than the presidency. Yeah.
Well, if he says nothing less than the presidency from the history of the politics of the country, he might not gather more votes.
Dr. Rotich, they'll be swallowed.
I think, let me just delve into the state of the nation.
Yes.
My expectation...
before you get into that, we come to that briefly. What is happening in the political arena right now?
I think, Oloo, if you can remember, some 1 month ago, we were saying that things are actually shaping up very fast. And in this case, by the time I was here, we were discussing about that Raila has found a strategy to climb to the mountain, which as at the moment he has climbed. So we are talking about Raila, who is already at the mountain.
Debatable.
And
debatable.
So in this case, now I'm seeing the battlegrounds have been thrown. And Oka, as a third force, will determine the winner of the two major contestants.
Can we say
right Honorable Raila Odinga?
Because as it is right now, they are feuds. So it was purported to be the third force or the third horse.
No, I'm not seeing them as the third force. I'm seeing them as the determinants.
Oh yes. Because
they will end up divided. And in this sense, because when you look at the talk of His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, then you look at the talk of Gideon Moi, they are so bitter against Ruto. And look at the talk of Mudavadi. He's somehow compromising. I mean, you don't see a daring attack on His Excellency the Deputy President. So there is a possibility that the divide is on the making. That very soon you may see Mudavadi actually being, joining actually the camp of His Excellency the Deputy President.
Are they alive to this fact?
No. In politics, possibilities are always there. The possibilities are very open. Now, when you talk about, you saw Kalonzo Musyoka almost saying that he will never go back to Raila, whom he has supported 3 times or so.
Yes.
The other day, he invited him to his meeting when he was launching and that kind of embracing actually meant a lot to some of the onlookers. So in this case, politics, everything is possible in politics. I'm foreseeing a situation whereby, to me, I'm not foreseeing a runoff come after the next general election.
50% and
it
one
is not,
plus one straight.
You see, as we are talking, Oloo, Raila is here to capture his original base. You see, when they were in when they were actually in NASA, it was a broad political base, and the network was very wide. And as we are talking now, we are talking that he's on ODM. He's talking as a party, a single party.
Yes.
That means the rest of his political bases that he had before the last, in the last election, he no longer enjoys that kind of basis. So in this case, much of the intrusion has been made by His Excellency the Deputy President to most of the places where Raila was enjoying a lot of support. So in this case, if Jubilee that Ruto is talking about, that about 156 members of Parliament are on his side, if that will translate into the ground numbers, the grassroots support, so he has an upper hand actually in this race, and I'm seeing he may actually garner 50 plus. And the runoff may not be there.
When you talk about the legislators and the parliamentarians, when you see Deputy President now going for the MPs, 100 plus MPs by his side, and when you talk of Raila Odinga capturing the county bosses, the governors, he's been talking about the 16 regions. Out of the 47 counties, he's been consolidating all the county governors at one particular point, then having a declaration.
I think, let us be realistic. I want to tell you that the people who are on the ground, you could be telling me about the MCS, who are at the grassroots. You could be telling me about the members of parliament. You could be telling me about the women rep. These are the people who are with the people on the ground. Don't tell me about the governors. Governors are out of touch of the realities on the ground. And some of them, even those who are, no, let me tell you.
Yeah.
We are on the ground. I mean, we are talking about what's happening on the ground. The people who are on the ground, you talk about the MCS, talk about the members of parliament, talk about the women reps. These are people who are always on the ground, and they can speak the majority of the minds that are actually on the ground. The governors are out of touch, and some of these governors actually are in their last term. They are actually looking for a refuge where to hide their heads in come after the next election. So in this case, I'm not seeing the governors being the real. Now look at even these rallies that Right Honorable Raila had yesterday in Nairobi. How many members of parliament who are currently sitting members of parliament who actually accompanied him? When he went to the central province, how many members of parliament did accompany him?
Perhaps
so in some of these things,
perhaps it's a strategy.
So it may be a strategy. I'm not refusing. As I told you, politics is quite dynamic. But going by those who are actually entrenched in the politics of the grassroots, you talk about the members of parliament, you talk about the MCS, you talk about the women reps. These are people whom you can rely on to actually lead you to where the votes are. That is on the ground.
I mean, do you buy that?
But I think the issue of the MCS, the MPs, and the governors, first of all, data shows that most MCS will not come back. Even from 2013 to, like in Wajir, one guy came back. In Mandera, 4, and I'm sure
it's quite synonymous with Kenyan voters. They vote out.
When my brother here talks about the MCS, is he talking about the incoming MCS or the current ones? Because if he's talking about the current ones, majority of them will go home. The MPs, more than 25%, will not come back from the history of this country.
From the history, sure.
Governors, you cannot underestimate them. The guys who serve 10 years have two things. They have influence and they have money. Two factors in Kenyan politics. So you cannot wash them away. They are struggling because the current political structure, they can either vie for Senate or MP. They can't go back to government because of the two tenure of 10 years. So by and large, what is important that is going to happen is this. In 2022, we might see a 202 repeat, where Kenyans are angry with the political class. Because look at Raila. How many years was Raila in politics? I mean, he was in politics until America had how many presidents? Look at Kalonzo Musyoka. These are guys who are there 30 years, 40 years. The question is, those of us who were born then, when do we have the chance to lead? So these are the dynamics of this country that people must struggle is, why should we have more than 1,000 people leading this country when we have 50 million Kenyans? So we should diversify the politics of the country where we bring young, energetic, educated, dynamic people into the sittings either in parliament or in the county assemblies. Because I was disappointed when they removed the degree requirement for the MCAs. That position is not just about the rights of the people, it's about the value for money also. Because in Kisumu, I was told there's a time that 16 members of assembly never spoke a word. And it's so with all the 47 counties. If an MCA has earned more than 400 shillings a month, including his allowances, he's given an insurance, what is he doing in the assembly? Some of them go there to sleep. So you're there to legislate. The Kenyan state is a unitary state where we have the devolved government and the national government. There you are supposed to represent, legislate and oversight. Your work is not to sleep there. So for you to legislate, oversight and represent, you need to have some level of knowledge, because even making budget process only is a very complex thing. So if you're not, it's not necessarily you should have a PhD or a master's, even if you have a diploma, but you have worked in systems and then you have established yourself, and then you can be part of this development. But you cannot just say we're electing people and then they just go there to eat the money and get fat. That is not the reason. So the issue of Raila or Ruto targeting members of parliament, if Ruto continues what he's doing, being very aggressive, but I think he should have some decorum, where you don't need to abuse people. You don't need to use undignified language. I'm not saying he is, but sometimes you will see a lot of resemblance of, a very furious man. This is not your country. It's not your personal property. So you have no right to get angry. No one has the right to get angry. We have the right to get angry as Kenyans. We pay their taxes. Uhuru Kenyatta is enjoying all those privileges because he's the president of this country, and he's paid by the taxpayers. So I, Abdullahi Mohammed Ahmed, who is being taxed a lot, I have the right to be angry at President Uhuru if he's not doing the right things. But as a senior employee, he needs to respect Kenyans, because the tendency of thinking that the country belongs to a clique of people is the biggest undoing to Kenyans in this country. So the politicians have no right, because they are not leaders. If they are leaders, you will be talking about droughts. They'll be talking about the COVID effect on the economy. They'll be talking about people dying in the hospitals, the supplies of drugs through KBC and making sure there are other competitors. When you see the president appointing a military man to KBC, what is he running from? Okay. So what we need to do as a country is to have a political system where the citizenry are the biggest participants in the process of making everything we do in the country.
Doctor, we are yet to see a lot of a lot of temper and energy and vigor being pumped into this political arena as we speak. Because when you speak of politicians now going out completely flat out, it's something that we expected.
I think, Oloo, you must also, there's something that I wanted to explain about the issue, this man, Ruto. Ruto is a very ordinary human being who has his emotions like you and me. And if there is anybody who has earned all the sorts of names being called, is His Excellency the Deputy President.
Almost all sorts of names. All politicians have earned all
No, I'm just telling you, because every newspaper, every talk around around the town, around the social setups, you hear of people talking of His Excellency the Deputy President Ruto. So they could be, they've used all the languages that they could imagine of, to demean him. And recently, Oloo, I overheard one of the governors saying that he was telling Raila, Raila, last time when we were campaigning against you, we gave you all sorts of names. And not because you were bad, but because we wanted to defeat you.
Wanted votes.
Now, that is the politics that we are now witnessing in the Ruto's name, whereby people are calling him names, all sorts of names, to try to finish him politically. But that is part of, so when you respond to the same guys, when he responds to the same guys, he's not being angry to the country. He's being actually annoyed by the lies battled by even people who have brains. So I mean that is something that it remains to be discussed another day.
Ruto is pursuing his political agenda. So he's the one who has exposed himself at the ring. So if he receives blows from people stronger than him or weaker than him, he came to the ring.
No, what I'm just saying, Mohammed, is that Ruto is a human being. He has
who wants to be a president, and not just an ordinary man.
And he's a man. So what can we say, Oloo? According to your question about the current temperament or the approach that me personally, I anticipate that this was going to happen. And we have two very powerful men who have been in the history of our politics. Right Honorable Raila is not a small man. He has a background. He has a solid ground support. And Makiu also, Ruto, His Excellency, the Deputy President, has worked with Raila. And he knows very well. He knows the man who is actually competing with. So these are long-term friends competing together. So in this case, the race is not going to be very easy.
Can we conclude that it's a friendly fire then? It's a friendly fire.
What I think what needs to happen is the politics should have some hygiene. We should have some decency. I am not saying that we should abuse people or they should abuse us. When you have a country like Kenya that is becoming a very, developing country in Africa. I mean, we are competing with Ghana and South Africa. We are far ahead of most of our neighbors. So the person anticipating to lead us needs to show some decorum. In my mother tongue, with the community, they say that if you want to be a leader, you need to have the skin of a warthog, because people will insult you. You see how people, hardened skin. You see the warthog in the countryside resist all that sun and lack of water, and it's a very surviving animal.
And sometimes bites.
Exactly.
So you need a thick skin. to some level when you go into politics, because you are the one who exposed yourself to that. If you're a shop seller or a camel herder, no one is going to talk to you. Yeah, if you're working here as Oloo, people will not abuse you, will just criticize you on what you do in the show. But when you go out there and you seek a seat in Nyanza, boss, we will bash you because you're earning Kenyan tax money.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. What we need is Ruto is a PhD holder, so you must behave like one. When you go to school and you read and you write, there are certain ways you carry yourself.
Yeah.
There is some difference. You're not special. But because of the training you had, because of the reading you had, because of the exposure you had, you carry yourself with some decorum. You don't see Western presidents behaving the way we behave in Africa, even though our democracy is still very young. So what I'm saying is, there is nobody who pays the bill of anybody in this country. Oloo came from your house, I came from my house, he came from his house, but we are 58 strangers, 58 million strangers living with each other. How many people do you know in this country? 1,200 in your phone?
53 million.
58 million. You don't know the names of 50 million Kenyans.
Exactly.
So
right.
This is a country where strangers have agreed to live with each other in a country has boundaries called Kenya.
Okay. There's something that's quite happening right now. A few months ago, so to speak, the Mount Kenya was perceived to be a stronghold of Deputy President William Ruto, and it was reported as locked. And the number of trips, the kind of picture, the kind of, it was purported to be his stronghold. And now, moving forward, people said that Raila Odinga was not going to make it to Mount Kenya without the help of Uhuru Kenyatta, the president. But currently, things are slowly changing. What do you read out of that, Dr.
I think if you have been reading all the occurrences that has happened, I mean, even during the meetings, you compare the kind of welcomings that Right Honorable Raila has received and the kind of welcomings that His Excellency the Deputy President has received. Yeah. You will be able to tell, because Right Honorable Raila is still on the making, because he met with the leaders. A few leaders, especially the person, even last weekend, I mean, he met with the traditional leaders
in Nyeri. Yes, in
Nyeri.
Yeah.
Actually being, I don't know, I mean, that was it was decided by the elders that Mount Kenya actually is in to support Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
The story goes that the elders
and,
from both sides were
the frequent people whom you have been seeing in this camp, talk of Bita Kene, talk of Macharia, Royal Media, talk of what some few people who have actually stood with Raila in Mount Kenya. But look at the maturity of the leadership in Mount Kenya. You could feel the absence of most of the leaders during the coronation, or you can call it anything. So that indicates that Raila is yet to go deep into Mount Kenya. Not that he's gone here yet. The ceremonies have been done, but he's yet to make an impact. So in this case, you cannot question as of now the popularity of Ruto. Even after when they came out from Kirinyaga, when they were in Nyeri. So immediately after the meeting, as Raila actually drove across the town, the youths came up actually with placards saying that we belong to Ruto. I mean, that tells you that the ground is still very hostile. So in this case, Raila has to do more job in Mount Kenya to make more inroads than what it is now. So we cannot say Mount Kenya has descended to the lake. I'm not seeing that one yet.
I like the way you put it, but Mount Kenya has descended to the lake. Okay, fine. But then now, in politics, it's democracy. He went to Mount Kenya, he campaigned, but now the youth came out with placards and saying, we belong to Ruto. And by the way, and it was peaceful, which is, to any politician would easily see that as a move that, how can I really change the minds of these people who am in their stronghold, in their region, but they're supporting my opponent. So what can I do as a politician, of which I know Raila Odinga is a smart politician? He must go back to the drawing board, plus all the think tanks, to see how he can change the whole situation.
Central Kenya has a very huge chunk of votes. So
it cannot be wished away.
It cannot. And then the president also comes from there. Yeah. So a sitting president, a second-term sitting president, comes from a region that has 6-7 million votes. Yes. So he will have an influence. There is no doubt about that. But the doubt is really the president supporting Uhuru. If he does, then will he take him to Sagana? Because the only way you can prove to us that you're supporting him is you take him to Sagana, you bring the leaders, you tell him, this is my guy. But that's how is that going to augur with Kenyans and Ruto camp?
Yeah.
Now, the difference between the two camps, Ruto is still, a young man. Raila is an elderly man. He's 78, 77 years old. So the energy cannot be the same. Raila has been out of government for some times. From 2013, he has been out of government. So he just came to government March. Was it last year?
Yeah, March last 2018.
2018. So in 4 years in government right now, he's been given some leash with, chasing cars and some resources here and there. But Ruto has been in government for 10 years. Literally running the government from 2013 to 2017. And then now, he has been given the leash. Because some people will blame why is Ruto doing what he's doing. Ruto is doing what he's doing because as principal assistant to the president, if the president does not assign you roles, then that's a constitutional office. You go inspect the projects, whether it's political or otherwise. What do? You don't just sit in the office. He's a man with aspirations. He wants to become the president of this country. He's a Kenyan citizen. He has the right to do whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
He does not need to apologize to anyone, just like the way Raila is doing or Uhuru is doing. So Kenya is going through a transition. Our political democracy is taking shape because under the new political dispensation, there is a lot the new constitution brought to us.
Yeah.
So Kenyans are free to choose whoever they want. With that, why are people going back to Mount Kenya, and what influence will Ruto and Raila have? We might have maybe Ruto getting most of the youth, because sometimes you don't support Ruto because you love him or you like him, but just because you are protesting against people whose dads put us into this mess in the first place. Raila's father was a deputy president. Uhuru Kenyatta's father was a president of this country. Gideon Moi's father was a president. So expecting the sons of the people who put us into this mess in the first place to think about us as Kenyans, that they're going to think about our interest. If it was that, food security today, you've seen prices have gone up. Milk is 57, 58 from 50 bob. Everything is either 50% or 100% up. Fuel. This morning I came by a motorbike. He bought 500 shillings with 4.5 liters. So things are a bit expensive. Economy is doing bad because of COVID. So people are getting frustrated. So sometimes Ruto might be chosen not because he's the angel that people are praying for, but because they are protesting. The majority of Kenyans might protest against the system. And every exit in government is not always in good books with citizens.
Right.
So the president and Raila are working on something. Kenyans have the right to vote for whoever they want. But right now, Ruto and his team are very young, vibrant, very strong.
And that brings me to this question, Dr. Ruto and his team must be working extremely hard, because now the entrance of Raila Odinga fully, though he's not declared his candidature, all pointers
9th of December we're waiting for.
Exactly, according to the dispatch. But then now, they must be working so hard to make sure that they contain him, right? And if he doesn't, this might not work well for the deputy president, who has been campaigning for the last 5 years since last election.
I think, let me tell you, Oloo, what the deputy president is actually doing already is ahead of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Even though people are saying that he is yet to declare, it is in public domain that he will be there.
He will contest.
And then again, looking at it, Oloo, becoming number one may not be very difficult than sustaining to be number one. So what Ruto is now struggling to do is to maintain to be number one.
That is the biggest headache right now.
That is the biggest headache. And that is why things like where you will be his running mate, things like who are the right people to champion his campaign, is on the right track. But there are things that he cannot run away. He cannot run away to appoint a deputy president from a particular region. And that will also have some influence in the whole scenario. If he will win that one, I can tell you that going by the speed at which they are moving, about almost 14, 20 meetings per day, when Right Honorable Raila can hardly make 3 or 4, I mean, that speed is supersonic. I'm telling you. So I mean, so it will be very, very difficult. And also, of course, when you look at Right Honorable Raila, easier to get these people who are really, I mean, you should put these people in place who are more focal, vibrant, and highly mobile. he cannot move on his own. He has to get these foot soldiers in place. And that is a strategy that I'm saying is still is yet to realize that one. Because if he has a very strong team like the team that Ruto is having, he will be able to make a headway. But if he should be the one to make to keep ahead of an individual or two people, and also holding on to the old guards. I think I know he's old, but he should not hold on so much to the old guards. If he is expecting Honorable Commander to produce the force, these old people, I'm not saying they are bad, but what I'm saying, he should get a more vibrant team comprising of young people.
These are people who've been politicians.
No, I'm telling you the truth. Because let me tell you,
and the so-called
come 2022 Oloo, whether Raila will get or Ruto, they will be a president in the Republic of Kenya. But what we are saying is that he has to put more effort, but by bringing in the new blood into the mainstream. I would wish to see more about Otienda Oloo. Being ahead. Even Orengo is very good in strategies, but he should keep back a bit and lead. Have leaders
if you look at just to interject, if you look at the way he's been crafting his the people around him. For quite some time, we've not been seeing people like Millie Odhiambo. We've not been seeing people like Otienda Molo, the Orengos of this world. We've not been seeing the Jared Okelos. We've not been seeing people like these
lawyer, these young
Kajuang. All those people are being left behind. And any time he goes, for example,
is it a strategy?
In Gishu, of course, yes. Because initially it used to be called a tribal party. But right now, the strategy is, I want to give that national face. When you go to Turkana, have Turkana leaders. If you go to Kwale, Coast Region, have the Kwale or the Coastal Region leaders with you. So if you talk of politics, these people, whatever they're doing behind the scenes,
I want to see more of these, like these gentlemen from Mbagazi. What do you call these?
The Babu Owino.
Babu Owino.
Yes.
If we can have about 5 Babu Owino, cycling Raila, I think we'll be somewhere. Because unajua Owino addresses to the youth. And the majority of those people who are looking for votes are the youth. So in this case, it will work well in that strategy to have majority of the youth actually in the team.
Raila is old. Old is not being a disease. He just lived more than us. So people should not think it's a disease. Raila is old because he lived more than us. Otherwise, he's a Kenyan who has the right to vie. So everyone is repeating he's old. Being old is not a disease. It's just that you have lived more than us. Now, now the difference between Ruto and the other team is Ruto has taken a style. Have you looked at his dressing? Who is he appealing to?
Appealing to the youth.
Yeah, that's a physical demeanor. He's trying to say, I'm a very strong man, very energetic. I can be with you because he's 50-something. So there are so many dimensions of strategies that you need to use. Presence on social media, presence in the television, in this national television in this country, presence in the online media, the newspapers, the rallies, the languages. Raila is an elderly man who wants to be a president in a country that is majority youth. So how is he going to be packaged? Because he can't be youth. He's 78. He can't be youth. So how can he, package his messages to resonate with the youth so that they come to his side? Now, the biggest puncher or the biggest humiliation he might face or biggest undoing he did is when he did the handshake. He lost most of his bases. Because why do you allow 200 people to die, and then the people you have been speaking bad about, on behalf of those people who died, you're now dining and whining with them? So that's a problem. So many people will look at that as a person who is pursuit of power, regardless of greed or whatever he has to do. Now, people around, he might have told the Millies and the Jareds and the Otienda Molo to step back because they are Luos, because they are also smart Luos. So they can, I would rather listen to Otienda Molo than listen to, some of the MPs around him. So there are different people you're appealing to. You're appealing to the professionals, you're appealing to the youth, you're appealing to the Mamambogas, and for that you need different people speaking to them. Now that Atende Amolo has taken back, is he disappointed with how people around him are running? Because I was in Serena when Raila came to visit Sleep Business Community. It's not wrong to say majority of the people around him were Jaluos. It's not wrong to say there are still many Jaluos around him. Because I only saw Junet and few others. That is not a problem. We are ethnically divided country, because every region will come with its ethnic. We are ethno-political patronage country. This is a country where favors and nepotism is done based on tribe. But the way you package the information is still, we cannot decide things right now. I'll tell you today this, we still have 8 more months to election. So 2 weeks is a very long time in politics. A lot will change between now and March. A lot of people might leave Ruto and go to Raila. People might leave Raila and go to, we might see people who are going to be independent. By and large, what is important is we maintain a very peaceful country.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, my director says that we are coming almost to a close. Time rhymes so fast. Apart from that, we expect, the State of the Nation address tomorrow. Probably we need to preempt for the sake of Kenyans who do not maybe, Kenyans are busy right now. So much happened. The State of the Address is tomorrow at 2:30. Dr. Ari, starting from you, what
I think what I am expecting, Oloo, from His Excellency the President, you see, he has done a lot in this country. He will actually he will explain more of his achievement as the President of the Republic of Kenya. He will compare his pledges and what he has achieved. And then, of course, he will also justify why we were not able to achieve to the 100% of the promises that he made. And maybe due to pandemics that we have encountered as a country. He will also touch on issues to do with unemployment that is so rampant in the country. He'll touch about on corruption corruption and the challenges of fighting the corruption in this country. He has been in the record actually saying that we've been trying to fight corruption, but things have been stopping at the judiciary. So those are some of the claims that may actually feature in. But more so, although I think President will also explain more deeper about what he thinks, how he perceives his legacy, how he would wish his legacy to be after the election, the 2022 election. And much will not be changed. But what he will promise the nation, that the short time that he is still having, he will struggle to maybe complete the pledges that he made to the nation. He is still having about 8 months down the line, and what he will also express is that he wants to leave a more united nation, a more peaceful nation, and also expressing or rather expounding more on the peaceful next year election. I think those are the areas that I believe His Excellency will expound on, and I think we'll have many good things to say, because to me, he has done a lot. He has done a lot.
Ahmed, perhaps, unless stated, could be his last State of the Nation address. And it came at the last minute because people never saw it coming. As that last week, they were supposed to have the Jubilee NDC, but that didn't happen until now, tomorrow, and probably that will come later on. Should we expect some goodies from the President?
Well, I think, first of all, the President will give us hope, a message of hope. Because there is nothing much he can change in 8 months. He has been in power for 10 years. Whatever he did, he's going to explain his legacy. Corruption is part of it. The insecurity, remember the committee incidents. So he's going to emphasize a bit of security in the country. He's going to emphasize a bit of, the economical hurdles of what's happening. How he's going to foresee the transition of power. It's a reality that he will be the last on 2nd of 9th of August, on Tuesday. He will be immediately after the results are announced and the other president is sworn in, he becomes automatically the former president. So I'm sure in his mind he's juggling on how to balance between supporting his candidate and making sure that the country is very stable and he doesn't go down in history as the president who made sure that we have gone up in mayhem and chaos. So he wants to leave a very transitional, peaceful country where Kenyans are thriving, where Kenyans are hardworking. A lot of things that happened, we can't blame him because there are other people working with him. But we can say that he tried his best, but he was not the best president we ever had in this country.
Wow. Okay. That's the last time to leave at that particular point. We've been talking about matters politics, and of course they've expressed themselves, and I said from the best heads, so that we can get to understand some of these things affecting us. We having that State of the Nation address tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. and of course tomorrow we'll also be delving much more on that and what we should expect the president, and even after we'll have a postmortem on what the president will say. Thank you, gentlemen. We've been talking to Ahmed Abdullahi, who is also a political commentator. He's also a journalist, by the way, and Dr. Rotich, who is also a political analyst and a commentator as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
May God bless you.
May God bless you as well. All right, we're taking a break, and we'll come back. Jane has a very interesting debate to have. What is she talking about? Stick around. You'll have to notice that. We'll be right back.